So the iPhone 16e has been stacking up very well against some of the newer phones out there, but how is it compared to maybe what you might be upgrading from, the iPhone 13? Let's find out in the speed test between the iPhone 16e and the iPhone 13. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and let's go ahead and get this video started off with a boot up test. And by the way, both of these phones, they kind of feel very similar in the size, the shape. I will say though that the glass rear of the 13 and the dual camera, for some reason the 13 looks more premium to me than the iPhone 16e. It actually feels that way as well. So I would say this might be slightly a step back in terms of the overall feel of the phone. The 13 was more fancy to me than this device right here, but you could see the 16e did turn on slightly faster, but nothing major. Both of these are on iOS 18.3.1. So let's go ahead and look at Face ID now on both of these phones, and if we take a look, both of them do unlock at exactly the same clip. We'll do it again, 3, 2, go. And I actually showed someone the 16e who had a 13 was looking to upgrade, and they said, that thing looks cheap, no thank you. So let me know your thoughts on if you might be upgrading to a 16e, and that's not my opinion, that's the opinion of somebody who had the 13. But let me know your thoughts if you would consider changing out your 13 to this phone, or you don't feel like it's a real upgrade, or if you already did it and you like this new phone. Let us know your experiences down below. But generally, scrolling through both of these products here, you can see they're both going to be at the 60 hertz refresh, and they both have the same iOS version. So kind of just going through each of them doesn't really show any difference in the general software. So the people are justified when they're commenting that the 16e, it is justified for them to comment that they are basically feeling like they've got a phone, or this phone looks like an old iPhone. It kind of does in the way that it does operate over there just generally. So the average person will look at this and be like, didn't they have that phone like a few years ago? Yeah, so if you're looking for a true upgrade, on the general home screens, it's definitely not going to feel that way, or just kind of navigating the software. All right, guys, so both of these phones do have everything closed out. Let's go ahead and begin with calendar here. And you could see no massive difference there. In the main applications, there shouldn't be any big deal of difference. Let's go to clock. And you'll go over here to stopwatch, timers, and all that. Let's go into calculator. And basically exactly the same. We got a little bit of dirt there on the iPhone 13. We'll swipe out. Go into Instagram, and you'll see that was faster on the 16e. So now that we're getting into a third-party app, a little bit quicker there. As I scroll through, you could see both of them load at about the same time, and they both scroll at about the same time. They also have essentially the same exact notches, and they do have essentially the same bezel size. So this truly is a pretty dated feel on the front of the iPhone 16e. I think the screen is a little bit brighter, and where you're really getting your upgrades is on the internals. But this is not a horrible thing. A lot of people did love the 13 design and the 12 design. So the 16e is still going to sell quite a few. But I don't think it's, it might not be a true upgrade for those of you coming from the 13. That would probably be the regular 16. Let's go over here to App Store. I would say the 16e is probably, that's faster on the left. It's probably a faster and better phone for those of you coming from like an 11, maybe a 10R, maybe a iPhone SE model. Let's go over here to X, and you'll see that was faster on the left. But from a speed perspective, which is what we're comparing here in this video, the 16e is more powerful. That is a fact. Let's go over here to Amazon. That was faster on the left. And so far, now that we're getting the third-party apps, the 16e is loading pretty much most things quicker. It even had this one. Let's go over here to trending. And you can see faster there on the 16e. And we'll go over here to gaming, music. We'll swipe down. We'll go to movies. And you'll see as we swipe down, pretty much even once they get things loaded. So the actual experience on the single core, hold on, now I got to click that a little bit, close that out. The actual experience on the single core stuff, like just regular day-to-day performance, probably not going to be drastically noticeable, but I do have to say that the iPhone 13 from time to time does get a little bit slow. But it's nothing unusable yet, but it's definitely showing its age. Sometimes it will just act a little choppy for me, but that's just not common all the time. We'll go into Subway Surf, and you'll see this is where the 16E will blow away the 13 in gaming performance. It's so much faster. So yeah, you will be getting an upgrade in GPU as well. We'll go over here to, or at least CPU. Let's go into Brawl Stars. And you'll see that A18 flying over there. And you'll see over there that A15, decent, but nothing amazingly quick anymore. We'll swipe up out of there. And we'll go over here to RTS, Race the Sun, and you'll see this is much faster again on the 16E. So yeah, if you are going to be gaming and you don't want to spend a lot for another iPhone, this could be a good option for you. Let's go into Call of Duty. And one of the big upgrades is the C1 modem in here that allows for a bigger battery, which allows the 16E to give you more like a plus level iPhone battery. Whereas this one is still giving you that standard iPhone size battery, which is not saying a lot. You got to charge this thing before the day ends if you're a heavier user. Not so on this one on the left. So that was much quicker to launch Call of Duty. On the left, we're going to go into Real Racing 3 on both. And you'll see Real Racing 3 does seem to pop open first there so far on the left. So in pretty much every single application that's going to be a larger size, it's just gonna handle it much quicker on the 16E. Let's go into Free Fire, and you can see again, I think it's been proven already that if you want to play games, 16E is gonna crush iPhone 13. It probably would do a pretty good margin better than the 14 as well, but it wouldn't be so much ahead of like the 15. That one would be pretty close. 14 pretty close as well, similar CPU to 15, but it's definitely just not going to be your top gamer in the iPhone lineup because it has a 4-core GPU, but it'll beat things like these older iPhones. And if you go onto the website where you buy the iPhone 16E, it'll show you comparisons, and Apple cleverly puts only older iPhones because they know those are the older iPhones that it's going to be faster than. They don't really do comparisons to higher end versions. Faster on the right, this is likely due to the app being updated for this phone first. You'll see over here, this one's clocked in at 3.23 gigahertz on the CPU, and this has 4 gigabytes of RAM, and this has 8 gigabytes of RAM. So more memory and higher clock speed is probably the reason we're seeing the differences here. Let's go into speed test, and that was faster on the left, and iMovie, and that was faster on the left. Again, we did have a couple videos in there that could have changed it, but you've seen throughout this entire video, this entire app test right here, that the 16E was loading almost everything faster except for the basic apps, which don't really require any power. They're built in natively to iOS. So if you don't want to pay more and you just want to dump the iPhone 13 for a regular iPhone again, this could be a solid option in the area of performance. This is where it really tends to shine. So let's go ahead and hop through these applications. 8 gigabytes of RAM is a big upgrade, especially for a phone at this price point. Well, not really this price point, but at this level in the iPhone lineup, because 8 gigabytes of RAM allows it to perform better over the long haul. Let's go over here to Amazon. Although most phones are starting to go 12 gigs of RAM in the competition space, and I do believe that Apple is going to go 12 gigabytes of RAM this year on their higher tier versions. Maybe not. Sometimes they take forever with RAM. But you've seen right there, 0 reloads, 0 relaunches. The 16E nails it right there. Right, so let's take a look at the iPhone 13. And already I could tell you, just kind of like swiping through, it feels a little bit slower on animations. Now we're getting a reload here on Call of Duty and Race the Sun. And it looks like the party's over for the 13. A few applications and everything is already relaunching. Another relaunch and another relaunch and another one. And that one held. Amazon relaunches, X with a reload, App Store held, News held, Instagram, and I'm expecting these native apps to hold well, and they did. So most of the games, most of the stuff had to be pulled out of memory and had to reload on the iPhone 13, the third-party stuff. So this phone is going to feel much slower when you're kind of like going through things. You might have to wait a little bit longer. You might get a little bit slower animations. Generally speaking, this phone kind of feels slow by comparison under heavier use to the iPhone 16e. Also, this phone tends to get warmer and you feel it more because of the glass back. So while it is look premium, you definitely feel its heat a little bit more, and it definitely gets a little warmer than it used to get back when it first came out. So the iPhone 13, while still a good phone, still a pretty efficient phone, it's not incredibly fast anymore, and it's not incredibly good at heat management anymore. But most people probably don't even feel this with a case. If you have a 13, are you planning on upgrading? Did you already upgrade to the 16e? Let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. And here are our final Geekbench 6 scores, and you could see that a substantial leap in the multi-core, which probably could explain why we were seeing those massive gains in the gaming department. You'll see though that not such a substantial upgrade in the single core, but still an upgrade. It's over 1,000 points, but it's not like 3,000 like we're seeing nearly on the multi-core. So that's probably why you've seen in a lot of the regular apps that it was kind of close. But overall, we got a true tone on if you're wondering why does that screen look yellow. Definitely the 16e is a substantial leap in performance overall though. Even over like some other iPhones in the lineup. So, and it also beat some of the 16 models already. It was a little quicker for some reason. So definitely that was a good overall score for the left. Let's go ahead and take a look at the extreme test now, where we'll test the graphics to see what we can pull in on both phones. The 16e has been impressing so far, even stacking up to some top tier flagships. So I'll be back when they're done with this area. You can already see the 16e flying through already in the test process. This one, we're still waiting on the load bar. I'll be back when they're done. All right, so the overall scores are in, and you can see we had 7 FPS better on the 16e and 13.7 on the right to 20 on the left. So that wasn't a massive bump, but the gaming performance should do a little bit better as well. But this is not the area that I was blown away by, because it was, yeah, around 1,000, but you can see better than 71% of devices, better than 43. It wasn't like what I thought it was going to be, like way faster with the frame rates, but it wasn't. It was just like 7. So that means that the 13 will probably game just fine, but you'll see it a little bit better in the higher end stuff for the 16e. But if you really want to push it in games, I would go to a Pro, or maybe even a base 16 with a 5-core GPU. This one has 4 cores, so definitely much better than the 13, but not like top level gaming. Both of these are just your standard daily iPhones here. And let's go ahead and launch the cameras now to kind of see where we get here. And the 16e did launch it faster. We're going to go ahead and do that again. 3, 2, go. And that time they were about the same. We'll do it again. 3, 2, go. We take a shutter speed test. Both of them pretty similar. So you do have the action button though. You can customize that to launch the camera here. No camera control button. But this one has the older looking silent switch at this point. And I say older looking because most of the phones now have the action button. So yeah, the 13, still a good phone. Honestly, I'm not overly impressed. It's pretty standard, but I'm not disappointed. It held its own, but it definitely was behind where it mattered. The gaming, the multi-core performance, the frame rates. Apple has definitely bumped the chip game up for this standard iPhone. And I feel like this kind of just replaces the 14 in the lineup, and just kind of replaces the 2 phones, the 14 and the SE. It also is a decent name because they can just kind of keep bringing this back. 17E, 18E, if they want 19, 20. They could just do that with a yearly or every 2-year upgrade to give you guys even better value proposition. But yeah, this would be a side upgrade. It wouldn't be a massive one. This is a tough one to say. So let me know if you want to see a full comparison between these two. Which one would you pick here? Well, that's pretty clear. But which would you do the upgrade is the real question. Would you do the upgrade from the 13 to the 16E. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I will catch you all in the very next episode. Thank you very much for watching. Nick here. Be sure to be well and peace.